Being able to recognize the signs that lead to someone becoming rich is one of the key skills I picked up while working in finance for about 8 years. And it's something that I've seen time and time and again. So in this video, I'm sharing 9 signs that tend to predict financial success and how you can apply them in your life. The first sign is you curate your inner circle. And honestly, I didn't believe how important this actually was until I worked in corporate America and I saw this firsthand. Right? I was always that guy who kept my head down and I worked long hours thinking that is what would get me my promotion and get my raise. But then I saw my coworker who was just pretty average at his job get promoted. And I just couldn't understand and wrap my head around why. Until I found out that he actually played golf every Thursday with the management team. And that's when I realized that I've been playing this corporate America game wrong the entire time. You see, rich people understand how powerful it is to surround themselves with the right people. For example, business ideas and deals are made on golf courses and at private dinners, and to an outsider, they might just seem like fancy places where bougie people hang out, but they're actually really carefully curated spaces. In the book Think and Grow Rich, the author talks about how powerful mastermind groups are as a way of taking your life to the next level. Because when you surround yourself with ambitious people who also want to be rich and successful, then success starts to just naturally rub off on you, right? In these circles, building wealth isn't just being talked about. It is the expectation, it is the norm. Your group's drive fuels your drive. Your group's habits becomes your habits. You don't have to force yourself to think bigger anymore, because if everyone around you is already thinking bigger and taking the next step, you will naturally do it too. So if you want to curate your winner circle, start small. Look at local Facebook groups or meetups for local entrepreneurs or business networking groups in person. Or you can go the digital route too. You can check out subreddit communities like FIRE, entrepreneurship, or other forums. Just be consistent and intentional with it. And as you grow, your network will naturally expand and grow as well. And you'll find yourself in rooms with increasingly successful people. The next sign is you know how to hustle and earn extra money. And I don't mean working harder at your 9-to-5 job. Instead, what I mean is you're resourceful enough to be able to find or create new ways to bring in money when you want to. So back in 2018, I really wanted to quit my corporate America job so that I could start my own business, right? But when I ran the numbers with my finances, I realized that I didn't have enough money saved up in my safety net for me to be able to quit and be fine for, let's say, 6 months or a year. And I realized that at this rate of how much I was saving, I'd have to work another 3 years or so before I was able to save enough money. And honestly, I couldn't take another 3 years of this. And it's at this point, it's one of those moments where you can really spot who's gonna be rich or not. You see, if you were in my scenario, right, the next decision you make will determine what you see as your locus of control, which basically means how much control you believe you have over the outcomes in your life. So if you believe that your actions determine your future, then you have an internal locus of control. But if you believe you have no control over your life at all in regards to this scenario, then you have an external locus of control. And studies show that individuals with strong internal locus of control tend to have higher incomes and net worth, because while other people are saying, I can't quit my job because I don't have enough money saved up, or I can't quit because it's way too risky, people with an internal locus of control, they're the ones who are asking, how can I save more? How can I reduce this risk of quitting my job? And that's exactly what I asked myself. So over the next year, I committed to making more money outside of my job, right? I spent at least 3 hours, no matter what, each weekday, and at least 8 hours each Saturday and Sunday working on side hustles. And yes, it took a lot of time, it took a lot of effort, but I eventually started to see the payoffs, and I was able to quit my job in only a year. But the fascinating thing is you can actually spot future rich people all the way back to like elementary school, middle school, or high school, because they're the hustlers. They're the ones who can't help but chase opportunities, right? Like me, I was selling snacks at school, I was flipping phones online, I was just finding any way I could to make some money because I didn't grow up with money. And just speaking of side hustles and increasing your income, this is where I want to introduce today's sponsor, Build Your Store, which uses AI to build a complete e-commerce store on Shopify for you. So if you've been wanting to increase your income, but you didn't want to deal with setting everything up and dealing with the operations and logistics, then buildyourstore.ai is for you. All you need to do is go to buildyourstore.ai, which is completely free. I'll leave a link in the description. And then you'll just enter your name, email, pick a niche that you're interested in, fill out a few more questions, and then when you're ready, just connect it to Shopify. And then, bam, you'll have an entirely ready-to-sell Shopify store with photos, descriptions, FAQs, and 10 winning products with AutoDS as the supplier. And what I think is really cool is that your store is pretty much ready to sell on day one. And plus, once a customer actually makes a purchase, AutoDS, who is the supplier, would automatically fulfill your order for you, so you can spend time growing the business rather than dealing with all the technicals and operations and logistics of it. So if you're interested, check out the link below for the free AI store builder. You'll also get your first 3 months of Shopify for just $1 a month and 30 days of AutoDS for $1. Clicking that link supports the channel, but more importantly, can help you start your side hustle today. Thanks again to Build Your Store for sponsoring this video. The next sign is you know there's always more to learn. Do you ever notice how rich people are pretty obsessed with learning? Like Warren Buffett reads about 500 pages a day, Mark Cuban still spends 3 hours learning new things every day, and the average CEO reportedly reads about 1 book a week. Now, if you contrast this with the average person, most people stop learning after they graduate from school, right? They get their degree, they get a job, and then they think they're done. Every day after work, they just go home and they start binge watching television until the next day and they go back to work. Now, I personally love to binge watch shows too. I just finished The 100. I know it's an old show, but the problem is I know that I have a very addictive personality. If I start a really good show, I feel compelled to finish it before I do anything else, which is why I rarely start new TV shows. But if you want to get rich and you want to build wealth, then you need to know that going to school and graduating is only the first step in your education journey. School teaches you how to learn, but the real education, if you want to get rich, starts after you graduate. There's a really interesting 20-year study by Thomas Corley that discovered that 88% of wealthy people read for self-improvement at least 30 minutes a day, whereas they found that only about 2% of people who are broke read for self-improvement. Now, to be fair, we don't know if the wealthy people read before they got rich or they started reading after they got rich, but the research shows that US workers who participate in upskilling programs, right, where they learn a new skill or a new talent, they tend to earn on average $8,000 more than their colleagues, which is a good amount of money. And plus, it's never a bad thing to know more about something. So I want you to try to dedicate at least 30 minutes a week to learning a new skill if you want to build wealth. The next sign you're going to be rich is you prioritize buying assets. So before you buy something, how often do you think about whether it's going to make you money or cost you more money? You see, in the book, The Psychology of Money, the author found that the richest people he studied weren't the ones who had the highest salary. They were the ones who understood the difference between buying consumption and buying production. Meaning, when most people get their paycheck, they spend it on things that lose value the moment they buy them, such as a phone, a new car, designer clothes. But rich people are obsessed with buying stocks, rental properties, or investing in their side hustles, things that would make them money over time. You see, buying consumption gives you temporary happiness, but buying production builds long-term wealth. When you prioritize assets, it shifts your focus from what can I buy right now to what will this do for me in 5 or 10 or 15 years. It's a mindset shift. It's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money your money is going to make. So if you get excited about buying stocks, then you're doing pretty great. The next sign is you understand that money is not your most valuable resource. Time is. And rich people know how to use time strategically to get things done. I want you to just think about Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg for a second, right? They run multiple businesses, and it's partly because they have teams that are helping them do it, but because they also know how to leverage every single minute or hour of their day. And this is something that I struggled with for a long time until I knew how to create my priority matrix. So nowadays, basically what I do is I divide my task into 4 separate buckets based on their importance and their urgency. And depending on where the task lands, I would finish them based on that priority order. This matrix is really helpful because we oftentimes have trouble prioritizing the right task or what we should do first, because we often prioritize things that seem urgent at the time, even if it doesn't have the most impact. However, the priority matrix allows you to tackle the most critical things first rather than the most urgent. The next sign is you know when to prioritize yourself. You see, many of us were conditioned to be thoughtful and to be kind to everyone. But when we do that all the time, we deprioritize ourselves and we put our wants and needs as secondary. Sometimes if you want to get rich, you need to take full control of your life and not care about what other people think, and instead do what you think is best for you. Like I remember when I started working in finance, right? I was new, I didn't know anyone, and I wanted everyone to like me. And so I did everything that I could to make other people happy. And I remember there was this one time, right? There was this one person on my team who was only there for about a year longer than I have been. And we both technically were the same level, but he would always ask me, without fail, to help him with his extra work. And initially I thought, yeah, sure, right? It's a great learning experience, great learning opportunity. I'll just do a really great job so that everyone can see that what I was capable of. So I agreed to help him for a good month and a half, like every single day, pretty much. I was staying late, he was leaving early, and I was doing pretty much everything, all this extra work, until I realized that he has been taking credit for all of it, right? So the next time he asked me to help him with something, I simply said, no. The point is, if you don't set healthy boundaries and learn to prioritize yourself, people, especially your employer, will try to get as much out of you as they can. It's different if it was a one-off favor or a one-time thing he asked, or if we both helped each other out, but it was very one-sided and I just felt like I was getting taken advantage of. But probably the worst part is because I deprioritized myself and because I volunteered to stay late pretty much every day, that took time away from my work, right? And my side projects or side hustles, times that I could have been spending to increase my income or increasing my skills. The next sign you're gonna be rich is you always think forward, right? You don't just focus on the present, you consistently plan, you set goals, and you think about your financial future. Most people only think about what they're experiencing now, and then they come up with a way to get out of their current situation. But people who will become rich or rich people, they reverse that process, right? In simple terms, they essentially just visualize the end and work backwards to now. Like I remember when I was around 15 years old, right? I had this old notebook that I always kept with me. And I wrote down one of my goals. It was essentially, I want to be able to make 6 figures. And I didn't grow up with money, right? And that 6-figure amount, like 100K or whatever, seemed like a dream come true. It seemed like a lot of money. And then what I did was I would work backwards on what I could do to make sure that I achieved that 6-figure goal. I knew I needed a high-paying job. And the best way for me to get one of those was to get into a good college. And in order for that, I needed to get good grades. And to do that, I needed to get a good SAT score, right? Basically, I just kept on walking backwards and figuring out what step I needed to accomplish in order to hit this end goal. And I filtered through each step by asking myself one question. Will this get me closer to that 6-figure dream? And I'm happy to say that I reached the goal after I graduated college, and that was because I was able to work everything backwards piece by piece. So after I graduated, I joined Wall Street, and obviously I wasn't happy. So I pretty much did the same thing again. I wrote down my new end goal, and that was to become an entrepreneur, to be my own boss. And I reversed the entire process, step by step, on seeing how I could ultimately get to that end goal. Today, I have my own media company, I have my own team, and I've been doing this for a couple of years. And it was all thanks to being able to reverse engineer the process that it takes to get to that end goal. The next sign is you understand the 8 wonders of the world, and that is compound interest. In simple terms, it's the interest that you earn on your interest, meaning not only are you earning money on your original money or on the principal balance, but you're also earning money on the interest that you've already made through that original investment. And it's kind of tough to explain without using numbers. So let's just say you are saving $1,000 every month, right? And you expect an 8% annual average return. Well, after 7 years of doing that, you're gonna reach a net worth of $100,000. Now, it took you 7 years, and that's a good chunk of time to get your first milestone of 100K. But to get to the second milestone, which is the next 100K, that time period shortens drastically. Because this time, you're earning an 8% return, assuming the same return, on a bigger pile of money. Now you're earning your return on the first 100K that you've already saved up, and you're earning interest on that first 100K that's accumulated. So as a result, it takes you a lot less time to reach the next 100K milestone, which would take about 4 years. Meaning, thanks to compound interest, it takes you almost half the amount of time to reach your second 100K milestone than it took you to reach your first 100K milestone. And then to reach your third 100K milestone, right? After that, it's just gonna take you a little over 3 years. And you'll notice as time goes on, right? It's gonna take you less and less time to reach each additional 100K milestone. Once you reach $1 million, making the next 100K milestone is just gonna take you a little over a year. And that is why compound interest is called the eighth wonder of the world. The rich understand how to take advantage of time and grow their investments, which is why about $81.5 billion of Warren Buffett's $84.5 billion net worth came after his 65th birthday. You see, although Buffett is a great investor, the way he accumulated most of his wealth is by investing. The next sign is you have a sense of urgency. You see, one pattern that I've noticed with all my rich friends is that they don't wait for quote unquote the perfect time to do something because they know perfection doesn't exist. Instead, if they see an opportunity, they will take action. And I don't mean that they're gonna recklessly rush into doing something. Rather, they have a bias towards action over inaction. Like in 1994, Jeff Bezos had a great stable job, right? He was working in finance, he was making a boatload of money, but he saw that the internet was growing by over 2,000% every single year. So he decided to take action. He quit his job, his good, stable, well-paying job, and he decided to start an internet business, Amazon, which is what was selling just books, right? And he moved really, really fast. 1 year later, by 1995, Amazon made about $500,000 in sales. By 1997, they made about $147 million in sales. By the time Barnes & Noble built their online presence by 1997, it was too late. You see, by moving quickly while other people hesitated, Bezos turned a simple online bookstore, what was originally Amazon, into what would become a $1 trillion company today. And just speaking of urgency, this kind of leads me to something that you've got to start accepting. And it's that even if you're trying your hardest to get rich and build wealth, it might sometimes still feel like you're not doing enough. And that might be because you don't know the right payday routine to do after you get paid. So if you're serious about getting rich, I want you to click here to discover the 10 steps you need to take every single time you get paid.